Let's now turn to the link. Billionaire Sunil Mittal's back telecom services provider Airtel Uganda Limited, a subsidiary of Airtel Africa PLC, Airtel Uganda Limited has offered mobile telecom services in this country since 1995 and is currently the core leader in the market with 49% revenue and 47.3% subscriber market share, respectively. Now, this company has 14.3 million active subscribers across 146 districts in Uganda and will start trading on the Uganda Securities Exchange end of October. I sat down with Amit Kapul, the Chief Commercial Officer, Airtel Uganda, on how Ugandans can own a share of this global company. Next up. Welcome to The Link, and tonight we intend to bring to you, are you up to speed on issues Airtel, Bharti Airtel, or a unit of India's Bharti telecom firm, on issues of its listing here in Uganda. Airtel Uganda aims to raise 800 billion shillings, about over $216 million by selling a 20% stake, and we have some details, country details of its IPO, but that will be a story for later. When the listing is done, Airtel Uganda will be the second telecom firm to list after its competitor. But they offered 8 billion shares, and the offer is active, meaning it started at that time, and it will close on October 13th. So the results of the initial public offer will be announced somewhere at the end of October, and the shares listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange then on October 31st. That will be the next day, according to the prospectus. So Airtel expects to pay dividends of about 500 billion Uganda shillings 2023, and will be targeting a dividend payout of 95% of retained earnings of net profit after tax, whichever is higher. So the company made, I'm giving you these details because you need to know if you're going to be an investor. They made a pre-tax profit of 474 billion Uganda shillings in 2022, and now it's down from 565 billion Uganda shillings the previous year. The firm also intends to grow its revenues, above 16% year on year in this year, 2023. So let's turn to this whole shares thing and listing. And to take us through that tonight here on The Link is Amit Kapul, the Chief Commercial Officer at Airtel Uganda. You're welcome.
Thank you, Malcolm. Good evening.
Good evening to you.
Good evening to you and to all your viewers.
You took everyone by surprise, Airtel listing. People never thought it would happen, and then it happened according to the promise of the company. So talk to us, give us a little brief about Airtel's listing recently. Okay.
Thank you. Let me start with giving a brief about Airtel Uganda itself. So we have been here in the country since 2010, but we trace our roots to the first mobile network that was launched in Uganda in 1995 under Celtel. Then Celtel became Zain. Zain was taken over by Airtel, and then we merged Warid with us to come into the current avatar that we have was Airtel Uganda Limited. In the last 12 years that we have been here, we have actually emerged as one of the leading telecom players. We've also emerged as one of the most innovative companies which brings in the latest technologies. So we were the first to launch 100% 4G, which means all our sites became 100% of 4G in 2019. We've been the first to launch 5G. We are also the first and the only one which has launched VoLTE services, which means voice over LTE, as well as eSIM card. So you don't really need a physical SIM card. We have an extensive network covering the entire country. As on December 22nd for the previous year, we had 13.8 million subscribers. Our revenues were almost UGX 1.6 trillion. Our EBITDA was 888 billion or 55.7%. And our net income was 326 billion. We have been the fastest growing telecom company over a series of 5 years and one of the largest corporate taxpayers. So once we had this success, we are now giving chance to any Ugandan, every Ugandan, our fellow Ugandans, to come here and participate in the growth of our company by investing in our shares. So we are offering now 8 billion shares, around 20% of the capital.
Yeah, 20% stake. But just before that, I had you spoke about earnings before tax, etc. But what's your profit after tax?
Sorry, the number that I just quoted was the net income, which is after tax, which is UGX 326 billion.
That's great. So let's go to the 20% stake that you're offering.
Yeah. So we are offering 20% stake, 8 billion shares, each of them at a price of 100 UGX. So any Ugandan can come in and invest in that. The minimum offer that you need to make is for 2,500 shares. So your minimum investment capital is going to be 250,000.
250,000.
250,000.
Yes. Yeah. So, but what I would want to know is what did you say the share price is again? I did listeners to understand.
UGX 100.
UGX 100
per share.
And so, how was the share price arrived at? And then in future, how much value is anticipated, and how is that arrived at as well? How do people make money here? That's exactly what they want to know.
Okay, so the value of a share is arrived at by first valuing the organization or the entire company. So when you look at our performance of the last few years, when you look at the growth that we think is possible going forward, in terms of the prospects of the overall telecom industry and for Airtel to grow within that telecom industry, we think that we are pricing it at the overall company at around 4 trillion. Once you do that and you backward calculate in terms of what should be the price of any share, that comes to UGX 100. In terms of how do people profit from here? So see, this is investment into shares. So there are fundamentally two kinds of returns that people can expect. One is in terms of dividends. So we have been a high dividend paying company for the last few years. And our dividend policy that we are disclosed in the prospectus is to pay about 95% of our retained earning or net profit, whichever is higher. So one way that people will earn will be from the dividend, and there's a consistent dividend record that we have to back it out. The second is a potential capital appreciation, which will be in line, or which should be in line rather, with the growth of the organization and the Uganda Stock Exchange itself. But of course, there are risks involved in any investments.
So let's talk about those risks then, because I know as the thing with stocks is that in the event that the company makes a loss, it means the shareholders also making losses. But I need you to talk to us about more of the risks involved and clearly so that the people that intend to buy shares here understand.
Okay, see, any investment that you do, whether it is real estate, whether the stock market, has inherent risks. There is no investment without risks. Now, what we will encourage people to do is to make their own judgment about the company. To aid in that, we have a very detailed prospectus and an abridged version of that prospectus, which is also available. Now, we would want anyone to please go through those prospectus. There is a full section detailing all the different risks that are involved into any investment, and please make a conscious choice on that. But yes, do we feel confident that we are bringing a strong proposition to the Ugandans? Yes, given both our track record and the fact that Uganda is a very growing economy. It is a country with a young population, it's a growing population, and it still has very low penetration of telecom. It has very low penetration of smartphones. So we do feel that there is a big runway for the telecom industry to grow. And within that telecom, with our investments, with our fact that we are one of the most innovative and we bring in the better products, I think we have a lot of scope to grow within that. So
in the event that I cannot reach or get the prospectus and I need to know about things such as the share erosion or lower profitability in the near future, I mean, I would need to know more details about these risks and how to go about them in case I really love to buy shares with Airtel. So I would not suggest to anybody to buy shares without going through the prospectus. So our prospectus. Do you mind sharing some brief details, or it's confidential? No, it's not confidential, but I think people should read the prospectus for the risk. That will be better. Plus, we have our advisors, both APSA as well as Crested Capital. You can reach out to them for that. The prospectus is also loaded on our website, and it can be downloaded by anybody. So I would expect people to read through it. If you need, I'll send you a version of the risk later on for your own consumption. All right, and you say APSA is your investment bank? APSA is the investment bank, and Crested Capital is there, who's the official broker, and I think you can reach out to any of them for those risks. That's fantastic. So let's now go to the easier part. Who can buy Airtel shares? What is the eligibility? And like you said, you know, it can start as low as 2,500 to just 250,000. So talk to us about who is eligible to buy Airtel shares.
Okay, so any Ugandan, whether in your individual capacity or as an institution, can buy the shares. To buy the shares, you need to have a security central depository account. So if you're an individual and you do not have that security central depository account, you can go to your Airtel Money account. You dial *185 *85 hash. Select the option 1, enter your national ID, and you can open up your security central depository account. Once you have that, you can go back to the same code, dial *185 *85 hash, go to option number 2, choose your broker, choose the amount, follow the prompts and invest in the shares. It's just as simple as that. Everything is electronic. If you already have your security central depository account, you can register it with, and if you have not linked it to your national ID, you should reach out to your broker and link it to your national ID. And after that, you can just go to *185 *85 with your security central depository account and go ahead and buy the shares. It's a very smooth, very easy, very simple process for everyone.
So when if I were a layman and I want to buy into a company, I would definitely want to buy in a company that is profit making. Airtel is, or even Bharti Airtel at a global level is a profit making company. But let's speak about Airtel Uganda. For instance, it's also a profit making company, having seen pre-tax profit of above 400 billion etc. But we are in economies that are completely, you know, becoming slower. You know, in terms of growth, in terms of what there's a lot of inflationary pressures facing these economies, etc. And so that's going to affect the demand for financial services, the demand for you know telecom services. What is the future going to be like? And I mean, someone will be looking at these propositions and saying, what if? What is the future? Where is Airtel aiming to make money going forward? And I've seen you launching 5G. Before even we feel, you know, the 4G, you know, in some instances you check your screen and there's 3G still popping up, and you ask yourself, where exactly, what is the plan now? So what is Airtel's plan? Where is Airtel going to make money, and where do we draw our confidence amidst all these macroeconomic situations?
Okay, see, I'll say first and foremost, okay, as you said, Bharti Airtel is a global company. It's one of the largest telecom companies in the world. So we're profitable at that level. We are, as Airtel Uganda, part of Airtel Africa Limited. And Airtel Africa Limited is something incorporated rather that has operations in 14 African countries and is listed on the London Stock Exchange. Now coming to Airtel Uganda and what are our prospects of growth, the way we look at it is what I can talk about. And I think the way we look at it, Uganda is a very young country. Uganda has a very high growing population. It's one of the fastest growing populations in the world. Every year there are lots of Ugandans who are coming into the age where you start using telecom services. Now, at the same time, while you have more people coming into the industry, at the same time, the overall telecom penetration, which is the number of people who have a mobile phone connection, is still low as compared to both the East Africa or the other countries that Airtel Africa works in, or as the global averages. So what that means is that when you look at, combine that, you have a huge customer base which still needs to be tapped by the industry as such. So that will give us the runway to grow as a telecom industry. The second part is that one of the biggest drivers for the telecom companies today is data. Data is driven by smartphones, and again Uganda has a lower penetration of smartphones as compared to the same set of countries, which means that as the smartphone penetration grows in the country, the data consumption will also grow and explode. And as it explodes, okay, we will definitely start seeing more and more growth rates coming in. So when we look at the prospects for Uganda and the telecom market within Uganda, we actually find ourselves fairly bullish, and that is why we have given our projections in terms of what we think the growths are possible. And we definitely feel that those growths are realistic and we should be able to do that. So we are very...
So as we walk out, because I know we've run out of time, the Uganda Stock Exchange has been flat for, you know, most of the time this year. Does that worry you? This is where you're going. I mean, compared to cross-listed counters.
No, actually, I think, yeah, Uganda Stock Exchange is still new in terms of number of issues, the number of trading that happens. But as companies like Airtel come in, okay, we are hopeful that more and more Ugandans will invest, which will mean there will be more and more liquidity into the Ugandan Stock Exchange. And therefore, I think a lot more trading and it will start building. I think it's an asset class under stocks which is big globally. It will finally become big in Uganda itself. And I think we will be happy if we are a part of that journey in being able to develop that capital markets in Uganda.
So investors should be very, very confident that they'll make money.
I would hope so, but again, as I said,
there is,
and I will repeat, no, not the risk, but I will always repeat, please read our prospectus, please make your own judgment.
Read the prospectus. Amir Kapul, the Chief Commercial Officer at Airtel Uganda. Thank you very much for visiting us on the link, and we really hope that you know, the participation on the Airtel share, on the Airtel counter, you know, becomes very, very successful. Thank you very much, and that's the link.